Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast, Talk2Rami. I am so happy today because I'm speaking with Tommy Yionoulis. He's not only a great entrepreneur, but he's a CEO and the founder of the OpsAnalitica. We're going to talk about restaurant, operation, management, software, everything that a restaurateur should know to be successful.
Absolutely.
Tommy, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you so much. This is super exciting. I really appreciate you having me on today.
You're welcome, my friend. You have a very interesting story, and I was reading about you. Can you tell me how did you get into from the restaurant to technology? I went the same route too, but for a lot of people, it's fascinating. The restaurant guy goes to technology.
Especially because restaurants really haven't changed that much since the time when Jesus ate in them, right? There's been more technical revolution in the last 10 years than, for the previous 2,500 years. So I started at 14. What's interesting is that both my grandfathers immigrated to this country. They were both restaurateurs.
Wow.
That's what immigrants do. It's an easy business to own. You can service people that like your food. And so both my grandfathers owned restaurants at different times. Both my parents were in technology and wanted nothing to do with restaurants at all. But then I had the hospitality gene, right? If you're a hospitality person, you have the right gene pool for it. And I was drawn to it. So first job, 14 years old, cooking cheesesteaks at the Columbia Mall in Columbia, Maryland, right? And then I just that's the industry I just gravitated to. And then in college, I was cooking at the first college I went to, and then I transferred, got a hotel restaurant degree, cooked the whole time I was there, really wanted to be a chef. At the beginning, wanted to be a chef or a country club manager. Those were my kind of two things that I wanted to do. Then I took a 10-year detour and did stand-up comedy. So
really?
Yeah. So
oh my God.
I'm just graduated from University of Denver Hotel Restaurant School. I'm getting my butt kicked at this job at a country club in Virginia. And I'm talking to one of my good friends who happens to be in the restaurant industry too. And she's like, I should just be a stand-up comic. That'd be so much more fun than this. And she's like, dude, you're 23. You have no responsibility. You don't have a wife and kids and a house in the suburbs. She's like, if you don't do it now, you'll regret this for the rest of your life. And so I was like, it was midsummer, right? Like a month or two out of school. I'm like, you're right, I should do it. So I found an open mic, went down there. They said, come back in 2 weeks with some material. And I came back and I started doing stand-up. And first night I was like, I want to be a stand-up comic. So for the next 10 years, I did stand-up was my full-time job. And then I had a bunch of jobs in the hospitality industry the whole time, because that's one of the great things about our business is, I went from managing stuff to waiting tables, but it worked with my schedule, So I did all that. And then 2005, I was pretty broke and tired, and just my career wasn't really going anywhere. And I kind of just wanted to change of pace for a little bit. So I went back and got an MBA, and then I got a wife, and then I got a job at Quiznos.
Yeah.
And then I went back into corporate America, if you will. And then I left that company. So I built this thing. They came to me and they said, hey man, we've got to report on all these audits we're doing on all these locations. And I was like, and they wanted me just to data enter paper forms into an Excel spreadsheet. I was like, I'm not doing that. So I ended up making a 2008, 2009 smartphone app that you could go and just a digital form that you could do your audits on, because we were auditing all the restaurants all the time. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey, you really liked building that auditing form. I just got hired away from this company. Do you want to come backfill my job here? It's in tech. You'll be doing workflow and development. And then that's when I kind of transitioned, And then as a project for a kid at that company, I was like, hey man, I want you to rebuild this thing I built at Quiznos. We threw it online. Somebody wanted to buy it. And that's really sparked the beginning of OpsAnalitica. About 2013, for the next 18 months, nights and weekends, I built out the first version of OpsAnalitica, got it in the field on a small chain on the East Coast, got them using it, revising. And then around the end of 2014, me and my business partner were like, I don't want to keep doing consulting. I want to build one thing and just make it great. And so we spun off that company. We sort of turned on the other company and started this one. And that's how I got here.
Yeah, I did look at it, actually, the OpsAnalitica, the website, and you guys, you really hit it to the nail, because the whole restaurant is about the process. It's about the process and operation, because the process is what makes you operation efficiency. The process, good process will make a better customer service. Good process will make a better employees, and less turnover and everything else. Let's go back to because I started my career in the restaurant in '90. It wasn't a Facebook or anything else, and it wasn't like anything like a hot schedule or any other software to write. We had to write it and put it in the fridge. Everybody check in. A lot of people, they go to restaurant these days, they still, and they're still thinking that they can manage the way they used to manage or the previous people. But I always tell them, you're wrong. Technology is not your enemy. If you don't have a good point of sale system and you cannot really track your food costs and your process, how are you going to build your restaurant? What is your feedback on the process? I know you guys who work on the process, the importance of the process for the restaurateur.
Well, any business in the world, all it is just a series of processes and systems, right? That's all it is. You can break any business in the world down to, and you will eventually get to the building block, which are systems and processes.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, you have a cult of personality and you don't have a business. If you can't go on vacation, if you can't go to someone's wedding, if you can't just take a night off and relax and have a beer with friends and family, you don't have a business, right? And you, as you know, as we both came up through the ranks in the hospitality industry. Back in the day, it was all about, I worked 80 hours a week. I pulled 16 doubles in a row. It was such a badge of honor. But that's what also burned everybody out, because nobody can sustain that in life. And so you have to have processes and systems. And what is a brand, right? What is a brand? We're all trying to create a brand. A brand is just a promise of consistency. I tell you, this is what you're going to get every time you come to my business or patronize me or buy my product. And then I have to consistently execute that brand promise to keep you believing in me, right? So systems and processes, they are the core building blocks of businesses. Now, when you look at big restaurant chains, or any restaurant, but you look at restaurant chains in general, now you're trying to execute these systems and processes simultaneously at thousands of locations around the country, around the world. And how are you going to do that? Well, you've got to rely on systems. And the problem was when the McDonald's brothers, if you go watch that Ray Kroc movie, which is a great movie, you watch the McDonald's brothers, they're the ones that really figured out how to automate and set all these processes. Had they had iPad technology at that time, had that been in 2010, when let's say we had no chains until 2010 and then it started, they would have adopted a software program like mine from day one, because it would just make so much sense to them. They were craving for that, but there was no way to do that in the 1950s. Heck, there was no way to do that really in 2005, because we didn't have the tablets, we didn't have the phones yet that were at that level. So you're sitting there going, okay, well, if I can't have a way to be in every restaurant simultaneously and hold people accountable and get visibility and kind of run more consistent, I'll have to do the next best thing, because I still want to have a business. So they relied on training by memorization, and they relied on paper-based systems. Both of those, and let's be honest, they grew billion-dollar businesses doing that. But now the technology has surpassed that so far. And in the labor issues and memorization and all this stuff, it's just all what we're doing today is so far beyond that. And now it's incumbent upon managers of these businesses to realize that this isn't 1983. It's 2022. And could you honestly get on an investor call if you're the head of Yum or something and be like, yeah, we have no clue what's happening in our business at any given time. We have no clue, no data. We just get a register data. We know what they sold, but we don't know if they're getting people sick or, if they're dirty. Like, how does that even feel okay in today's world that people are just backing into operational efficacy and just kind of guessing? But yet that's our biggest competitor is paper by far.
You know, I always use this example to my clients. Now I'm running a digital marketing company, got out of the restaurant consulting and industry. They always ask me, why you use restaurant? I said, you know, restaurant's got a process. For example, I used to own an Italian restaurant. I said, you make a chicken marsala. And then the chef put the chicken in the pan, start sauteing, put it in the oil. At the same time, the other guy is looking at it when he's going to drop the pasta. Goes to the line, do that. And then hot plate goes out in the kitchen. You got the time, you got to run it, put it in the table. I said, guys, if we don't have a process when clients comes in, what is the onboarding? Who's going to take it? Who's going to be the owner? Who's going to prep this, send it to the next division? You got to have a process. And sometimes when I go to a restaurant, they say this. I'm sure you heard that. I cannot afford your software. I cannot afford you. And this is always I get. And one day when the guy came here actually at a restaurant and he said, I cannot afford your digital marketing services. I said, that's okay. Can I visit you? And he said, sure. And I went over there. I said, can I take a look at your POS system? And he said, yeah. I went to pull up the report. And I said, he sold a tilapia in the last 3 months, maybe 2 orders. And I go to the freezer. I open the freezer. He's got 4 cases of tilapia sitting. And I said, how much did you pay for those tilapia? He said, this much from the Cisco. It was a food service or... Yeah. And then I said, let's add that up. I'm going to charge you, for example, this amount of money. You still is going to be ahead. And I said, you want me to show you another reason? Linen closet. Why that door is open? How much is your linen? Oh, $750 per month. I said, why don't you distribute 4 to the bar back, 2 to the busboy, and then lock that if they need it? And they don't know what they don't. The whole thing is that really, right now, the restaurant, even some franchises, they think that they cannot afford OpsAnalitica, which is give them the process, give them the system, give them the operation efficiency. They think they're saving money, but it's not like that. You're losing money. I don't know how I'm going to win that battle. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting because one of our big clients is Denny's, right? And they did a little internal survey and they looked at the restaurants that used our platform the most, right? And they compared that to the restaurants that weren't using it very much. And the difference in customer satisfaction from the top users to the bottom users was 89% difference in customer sat from those restaurants. Customer satisfaction is the game, right? If you're taking care of your customers and they'll come back, and as long as you're just managing your business appropriately, you should grow, you should maintain and grow slowly over time, right? So, and it's crazy, but you know what it is? It's not the money. It's that, well, I think there's 2 things. One is when you're talking about like a single unit operator, they look at a process as, this is one more thing I have to go do, which is like wrong, right? Like, no, you have employees, delegate to your employees and actually manage your business. Don't just work in your business, manage it, right? Like, but then the second point is, you know, people don't, a lot of people are like, they know things are bad and they just want to kind of keep their head in the sand, right? And they're afraid a system like ours will shine a giant spotlight on everything that's good, but also everything that's bad. But you're right. You're like, how is this not even like your business is operations, right? Yeah. Like that's what a restaurant is. It's operating a restaurant. But people just want to do the easy stuff because operating's hard. And then, let's be honest, it's a little monotonous every single night, right? So, but you know, the thing about that little monotony is you just have to change, you have to flip the script, right? Like from a 1990s rap term, you kind of flip the script and go, like, I want to look at how efficient I can be. Like, you have to just make other goals that like you can track and go, okay, I want to be more efficient. I want to get my food costs dialed in. I want to run the perfect restaurant. I want to do my training. You know, you can change it so that it's not monotonous because you're focusing on winning a contest with yourself every day on KPIs or something.
Yeah, everybody wants to be like right now. They wants to, you know, some people I hear I want to be a restaurateur. I said, okay, you got a concept. That I talk to them all the time. I said, you got a concept, you got a food. That's good. Okay, the food is good, but you know that the process, your process is everything because your process would, you know, it makes you consistent as you just said, and amen to that. It makes you consistent. When you're consistent, you have a better customer service. When you have a better customer service, you have more return and then your concept will work. But the thing is that most of the operators, you said that, especially with a single unit they're going to go, they do not understand that the process will make their people, the process will make their consistent, the process will make everything. You don't have that, you are broken. And it's very hard to fix that.
Well, and it's interesting because you said something, and I just had this kind of like thought while you were talking, which was a lot of people go, "Hey, I want to open a restaurant." No, you don't. You want to open a successful restaurant. You want to open a restaurant that's on a wait every night. You know, in every town, there's a restaurant that's just run it's a single unit, and it's just run so professionally. And every time you go in there, it's clean, it's nice, it's busy, and because it's busy, it's well staffed, and the staff is great, and you just go, this is a joy. Like, this is what an independent restaurant, like, this is a great restaurant, like, just a wonderful experience, head to toe, right? But then you go to 99 other restaurants, and they're all garbage, right? Anybody can open a garbage restaurant. Like, that's easy to do. Like, just don't care. Don't have systems and processes in place. I literally was performing at this comedy club in Denver, like back in like the late 90s, and they were going out of business. And it was to the point where people would order a Miller Lite, and the guy would run out the door and go to the liquor store and buy a 6-pack of Miller Lite, and then come back and like serve the guy a Miller Lite. Like, that's literally like how broke they were. Like, but that's like, people think that you just open a restaurant and they're going to come, right? And it's not the way it is. And the other problem that restaurants have is when they're operating poorly, it doesn't show up right away, right?
You're right.
Because as you know, sales in restaurants are always like this. Like, they're always up and down. I mean, you could have one busload of nuns show up Sunday afternoon, and your week could have gone from a negative to a positive by just a little bit. And you go, oh, I'm doing okay, whatever, right? Like, you can't really see sales unless you look at them for like 6 months and you put a trend line on a graph. Then you can go, okay, average sales is actually going down. Like, you just don't know. And so the other problem with like just the business itself is that you piss somebody off, 99% of the time they're not going to tell you, because they're just going, I've got 1,000 other restaurants I can eat at. I just don't have to come back here. And you do that, you might have to do that for 6 months, pissing people off every day before it actually shows up in your sales. So you can be bad for a long time and you won't even know it. And then when you start to figure it out because people stop coming, then it could take 6 months. I mean, you've seen it too, I'm sure. You get a new assistant manager, becomes the GM, the whole staff quits in 3 weeks, and you tell a restaurant that was crushing it is now dying. And it can take them years to recover from that transition of management team, right? Like, those are the critical things. I mean, because once people say, I don't need to go get my Italian food there anymore, I'll just go over here, they're just doing what's easy for them. They're not going to come back and try you again. You'll get suckered in there 2 years later, and then if you did an amazing job, they might try again. But they change their behavior, you know? So it's like, it's a very weird thing.
Basically, what you're telling me right now, and I want to just listeners and, you know, the people that are watching this to understand that what Tommy is saying is not only, he's not talking about just having a great food, you're going to be successful. Great food is not going to cut it. What is Tommy and I, we're talking about an ecosystem that from the bottom, it started with your process. Is that right, Tommy? Like, everybody think that I'm a great cook, I'm a great chef, I want to make it, people, they're going to come to me. And as you said, and I believe it, that's not right. Like, that's not going to happen. It might go for a while, but after that, you're going to kind of nose down. Is that right?
Absolutely. Because, like, if you don't have waiter processes and you don't have a set SOP to wait a table and you don't have a set SOP to like order the bar, like, because real quick, let's define operations. Operations are everything that you do so that you can open your doors, get customers in, have them order, serve them food, take their money, and have them leave happily, right? Like, it's everything. So, you know, if you don't have like systems and processes in place around every part of that business, then people will have inconsistent experiences when they come to you. And eventually you will irritate them enough that they'll go, I don't want to go here anymore. And they'll change their behavior, right? And like and it's even worse is like when you have a great night experience and then you come back excited, your expectations are high and then it falls. That's even a worse dip. Like consistency is the name of the game. Like you just want to be consistent. And the only way you can be consistent is to have processes and systems and checklists in place to manage your business.
Amen. And now let's talk about OpsAnalitica. Okay, as you know, the restaurants, a lot of different parts, moving parts from the schedule management, from the food costs, labor costs, food, like everything else. How the OpsAnalitica is going to help the single unit or franchisee to have an operation efficiency or to operate the restaurant better as one ecosystem? How you can help?
So we kind of talk about and we just focus on the daily ops, the team member activities. When you think about the day of a restaurant, the manager comes in the morning. They've got a series of steps of things they need to do. They got to count the safe, get the drawers ready, check the orders, make sure everyone's going to come to work. So they have a series of opening processes. Meanwhile, in the kitchen manager, the chefs coming in, they have a series of prep processes they need to do. They got to go into the walk-in, make sure that they're FIFOing everything and prepping everything and getting things ready and make sure that the night crew started thawing things properly so they can reduce cook time and all that stuff. So you have all these preparation processes. And we like to say we take the guesswork out of running the business, because what we want you to do is we want to spell out and schedule for you. This is everything that needs to happen up until we open the doors. Then once the doors open, the show is on. You're now servicing customers. So you're not doing checklists in the middle of the shift. You're taking orders and making food, but you can't hit your speed of service goals and your customer satisfaction goals if all that setup and prep didn't happen correctly, right? So that's why that's such an important part of the shift. It's actually more important than the actual shift, because if you, for instance, have a burger restaurant and no one thawed the hamburgers, your cook time just doubled, which means that your drive-through line is going to be too long. It means that people are going to walk in, see the line at lunch and turn around and leave. And you can crush your own sales by not being prepped correctly. Then once that lunch shift is over, you have a whole other set of processes you need to do to turn down the business and then restock, re-prep, change the menu around for dinner and get ready for dinner. And then, same thing after dinner, down, and then prep for the next day. And so what we're here to focus on is just helping the employees not miss stuff. Here's the thing people have to remember, right? When you go and have a bad experience at most businesses, and it's not just restaurants, it could be any business.
Any business, yeah.
But it's because of one of three things didn't happen, generally. One, the business wasn't clean and inviting. You go into it, it's sticky, it's gross, you're like, I don't want to be in here. These guys don't even respect me enough to take my money, whatever. Clean and inviting, number one. Number two, they have to execute. I ordered a cheeseburger. I want a cheeseburger. I don't want a chicken sandwich. I need a cheeseburger, and I want it to be delicious. Number three, speed of service. Speed of service is different for every business, right? Because if you're going to a fancy steakhouse, the speed of service is 2 to 2.5 hours. If I'm going to McDonald's and getting breakfast, it's 2 to 3 minutes, right? That's the total transaction time. But everybody knows what the transaction time is supposed to be, and I want it in that time frame. Those are the three things that people want. Now, when you go and have a bad experience at a business, it's generally because some of those things aren't done. But here's the deal. It's not usually just one giant thing, right? It's usually death by 1,000 cuts. It's all these little things that just kind of add up to give you a blah experience. I went in and there were no paper towels in the bathroom. The floor was sticky. The ketchup was empty. So I had to go stand at the counter and wait while my fries got cold to try to get ketchup, and there weren't napkins. And all of a sudden you just go, why am I doing this? Why do I want to come here? Because it's never good. And that's kind of how people leave. But any one of those things probably would have been blown off, but it's usually when you get 5 or 10 of them in a row that you're like, okay, this isn't cool. Now you have inflation on top of that. So everything costs 10 times more than what it used to cost. So now you're like, holy crap. You're still comparing today's sandwich to what you paid for it 3 years ago. And you're like, that was a $7 sandwich. Now it's a $12 sandwich. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have raised prices. They needed to. But Now I'm looking at this thing that cost me $12 and I'm like anchored to the $7 I used to pay for it. And then I didn't get catch up. And I'm like, and I have all these options around me. And I'm just like, well, why am I going to come back? But all of that's controllable. You can't control the labor market and the president and taxes. You can control having paper towels in your paper towel dispenser, and turning the music on and having an open sign on, and you can control that. So you need to do that. Period.
The restaurants, you are absolutely right. When I talk to these people, and I said everything is controllable in the restaurant. It's up to you how you're going to do it. Are you going to use the technology to do that, or are you going to just say no? Because as you said, when you don't have a day catch up, in middle of the shift, that means you didn't follow the process to check off everything when you open your shift, and you got to do that. You got to do all that process. But during your career, you have talked to so many, especially with OpsAnalitica, you've been talking to so many operators. What is the biggest challenge these guys are facing when you talk to them?
Their biggest challenge, I think, is one, staffing, right? But I think it's because, and I was this way too, I managed one of the busiest PF Chang's in the country for a while. I was one of the staff managers. You're always going to have people no call, no show, or call off and whatnot. But back then I had a stack of applications, right? And so I would be able to start calling people on the applications and start trying to bring them in and get them into the breach. But I think with the staffing issue, you're not providing a good enough job for people to come. And so you can try to get everybody at bottom barrel money and not provide an environment and an experience that is going to keep them coming to work. And then you can, but you can look at yourself and go, well, I'm only paying $14 an hour versus 19. But then what are you paying in turnover and training and all the other things, and not being able to open all the tables on a Friday night because you don't have a waiter for that section? What are all those other things costing you? You have to build a place that people want to come. And I kind of remember, I don't know if you remember this too, I remember when I waited tables and when I was a bartender and I worked in restaurants, it was about having that family, right? You were part of the family, and you'd go out drinking after your shift and hang out and we've got to create that atmosphere for people, but we got to compensate them because they can go drive Lyft and not be sweaty and greasy and have burns all over their arms, they've got other options. So we've got to make an environment, and I'm convinced that you can do more with a well-paid, smaller team of professionals that you train up and make awesome than you can by just throwing people into the breach every time, every day. So they'll say labor is the biggest issue.
Yeah, labor is the biggest issue, but I'm so happy that you mentioned this culture and the family thing, because I remember when I had my restaurant, it was 2000, 1998 or something, and I had my restaurant, it was 30 plus staff. Culture is so important, and I totally agree with you, because I never forget, on Sundays we had a family lunch, and the chef would make everything. They would come with a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. We had so much fun. We would do things together, and and we got to the point that my staff turnover ratio was like a 3%, and nobody would leave. I said, you graduated from the university, just go. You were a bartender. I said, can I work at least one shift? I want to have fun. But now you are absolutely right. I go to a restaurant, they don't want to pay. They pay $2.13 and a plus tip, whatever. And then if you can't make it, we're gonna match it with you. But if you're taking care of your people, the people will taking care of you. And it's going to be a phenomenon, because the guy is going to go use Uber, is going to drive, is going to make $20 an hour. But if he can make a 17 and be happy, I promise you he's going to be right there. But you can't get, especially today, as you said, with the shortage of the labor for the restaurant hospitality, you got to change something. You got to do something.
And it's really interesting because I live in a suburban area, and, and I was talking to a guy, and he runs the Mod Pizza around here. And he was like, we have a really hard time staffing.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a really hard time staffing the Mod Pizza. I have a hard time. And they have a lot of employees on their shifts because they got everybody making the tables and all that stuff. But literally 800 feet away from him is a Chick-fil-A that's got, and it's Chick-fil-A. Yeah. They have high AUVs. I get it. But the reason they have high AUVs is because they got 30 kids in the drive-through line out there taking orders on iPads. They have 2 people standing outside the drive-through window just to hand you your food. Like, they are staffing for success. 50 feet from there is a Wendy's that's running 1 person who literally takes your order and makes your burger. And it's like, you know, and what happens to these restaurants is they get stuck in the toilet bowl, right? And they start at the top and they're like, we can't hire anybody, so we can't afford to hire anybody. So we can't afford to pay more because we don't have the sales because we can't hire anybody. And they get in this self-fulfilling prophecy and they start rolling down the toilet bowl. And you're like, dude, like, you've built this building. You have a Wendy's. Why don't you care enough to go and like invest a little money in this store and get a couple employees in there? Like, because every time you go there, the food's like medium and it takes forever. So I just won't go. And I want to ask you this question. I'm taking over your podcast here for a second, but like,
no, that's amazing.
Well, but I'm really curious because I have most recently, like, I've gotten so fed up. So pre-pandemic, I was like, you know, the restaurant industry, I think, was a lot better. Then the pandemic happens, and restaurants did okay in the pandemic. Don't believe that. I mean, some closed. Yeah, if you were like a late night bar with like a bowling alley, you had problems. But if you were like a restaurant that had delivery and whatnot, and you got creative, you were fine. But I used to give people more chances. But now with the inflation and just everything, and like just it's I feel like I'm getting such mediocre service. I'm now down to 1 chance. Every time we go in there, it's your chance to make me happy and I'll come back. But if you blow it, I'm kind of like, I have a million options, you know? I don't need to come back. But I used to be at 3 chances.
Yep.
And I'm curious how many chances you give people.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you mentioned Chick-fil-A. I get my breakfast 3 times a week, at least from Chick-fil-A. And every time I go there, and, you know, my pleasure. And I asked one guy, he was like 16. He was 16. He's my age of my daughter. And I asked him, and I said that, why you always say that? It doesn't matter. I give you my credit card and you say my pleasure. He said, we have a process and we have a system and training that we have to do that. And as you said, I am so happy, and I tell it publicly with Chick-fil-A because they have the amazing customer service. No matter what, those kids, they've been trained so well as far as, you know, speaking, engagement, welcoming, thanking, uniform, and everything else. And you want to go there. I swear to God, you want to go there. And it's fast. You want to go there. And then next to it is a Wendy's and Jack in the Box and all that stuff. And I go to Dunkin' Donuts, get a coffee. I swear to God, today I heard this. What do you want? I said, what the heck? And I went to the window and I told the girl, are you happy for what you do? And she said, what? I said, you don't talk to your parents like that. What you do, you're in the drive-thru and said, you know, good morning, welcome to, you know, Dunkin' Donuts. How can I take your order? What would you like? Would you like start out with a coffee? How hard is that? Because I used to teach the, you know, customer engagement in drive-thru with Jack in the Box. And I said, how hard? I'm not going there. Because it's not pleasant. You're absolutely right. You're changing. I'm fed up with it. Be honest with you, Tommy. I'm done.
Well, because it's a lot of money. Because now it's not like a $5 meal. It's like a $9 meal for the same thing. And so you're like, $9. Like, act like you care. Just for like a second, right? Like, and I get that, like, you know, nobody's like, you know, most people who work in the restaurant industry are not going to make a career out of it like we did, right? But that doesn't mean, but also that's management, right? That's management.
That's management.
Not holding people accountable, not putting the headphones on and going, hey man. One time I was at a Subway by my house, and I have a real thing with Subway because I worked at Quiznos, and I feel like they're really struggling, like Quiznos struggled, obviously. But like the manager was like probably like a 21-year-old kid, and he like, they didn't have onions for the sandwiches, and he's like, oh, good job, guys. Way not to put the onions out there. Why don't you go get them? To like an employee. And he was just standing behind them while they were all working. And I thought, oh my God. Like, this is exactly, you know, like this is just everything that's wrong with your location. Ridiculous.
You know, when I go out with my wife for dinner, she always tells me, okay, we're going to have a dinner, okay? Don't look at everything. Just say, You know, okay, I can, but not. I'm not like a picky or critic. And I see like they got like a 4 tables, 6 people, 8 people on the floor, and the guy, I said he's over labor, and the manager sitting at the bar and checking his phone. What the heck is going on? And you know, and it's just that bad sometimes. And people are I'm sure you hear that they're complaining. I cannot afford to get a POS system. I cannot afford to get OpsAnalitica. I'm not to afford to do this or that. I say, go audit yourself. Go audit yourself. If you can't do it, get people to do that for you and see how much you're going to save. I promise you, any restaurant you and I were going to walk in, at least we're going to save them $700 a month.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy.
I promise you that.
We get such massive ROIs, and most of our clients are large chains, right? So they have hundreds of locations.
Yeah.
But like, if I save you, for instance, like, okay, I give one example. We have a chain. They're saving $10,000 a month right now across their chain, 450 restaurants, because they changed one question on one checklist. Because what was happening was they were asking the managers, have you double checked that everybody's punched out, like at the end of the night? And it was a true false question, and they were just saying yes. And then they realized that they were just saying yes, and they weren't actually checking the register. So the guy changed it to take a photo of the screen showing everybody punched out. And so by doing that, it forced the manager then to go look at the screen, and then they go, oh, someone isn't punched out. And they'd punch them out maybe 10, 15 minutes sooner, right? Because the system was going to auto punch them out at 11:30, but maybe they caught that at 10:45. So then they're punching the people out who have already left and adjusting their time correctly. And so now they're saving like 15 minutes here, 12 minutes there.
Oh, yeah.
Here, across 450 locations, and it ends up being like $10,000 a month for one question on one checklist. Like, there's so much waste and efficiency that can be had, but you have to want to go get it. And I think too, like, I get it. Restaurant managers are tired. Then you're not in the right business. If you can't go into that restaurant every day and go, I want to be great today, and I want to teach these kids, and I want to inspire people, you know, to be great and to build careers in this industry, and I want to build my own career, then you need to get out and go do something else, because, you know, we have too many restaurants in the business, and if all the bad ones started closing, the good ones would make double the money. So.
Yep. Yeah, if you know, you're right. If the restaurant is not for you, get out and do something else. Because I have seen it, the managers or even the owners. I had a guy said, I always want to have a restaurant. Go sit at the bar and have a drink with my wife. I said, oh God, are you serious? Go to Las Vegas and blow your money and let wait on you. You don't need to open a freaking restaurant to go sit at the bar and get it out of your system and make everybody else miserable because you have no experience whatsoever. Well, you want to do that, and this is a wrong philosophy these people they have. But as you know, as I know, restaurant is very challenging. I had it experience as I got divorced over it because those days there is no process. We had it, but it was all paperwork. I couldn't read. I had to be there. I was working 16 hours a day, and it was tough. Now you can remotely do it. You can have it. Camera, you can do so much stuff, but we couldn't do it, and that was a side effect of the restaurant. It's divorce. I'm telling everybody, you gotta go in there. It's gonna be tough if you can't manage it. If you're not using the tools and technology, it's gonna be hard, but use it. But I still love it. I get so tempted to go back sometimes.
And, you know, I
hold myself.
I always see, like, I see new brands, like new franchises come in, or I go to a great restaurant, I'm like, I could do this. I could crush this. And then, then I sit in my little office here at the house and I'm working on my computer and I knock off at 5 and I'm not greasy. And I'm like, I'm good. And, you know, it's funny. I get sucked in. Like, I think if I was going to do anything, I'd open a cigar shop. But then I'd also die of black like 3 months later because I would smoke 10 cigars a day. And I'd have the greatest day. Be in there every day, smoking cigars, hanging out with people. Like, I just would be in there constantly. But,
well, you know, where do you, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I'm good.
Where do you see OpsAnalitica in the next 5 years? I really want to know, what is the vision?
So the vision is in the restaurant of the future, right? And if you listen to the adaptation advantage and, automation, technology, data, right, is all coming in. In the restaurant of the future, you're going to have 5 sources of data pouring into your restaurant. It's going to be the internet. It's going to be your POS system. It's going to be robots. It's going to be human beings doing checklists, and it's going to be sensors. And those five data feeds are going to be feeding in siloed systems are going to be coming into one hub, right? And then from that hub, and this is where OpsAnalitica is going to fit in. OpsAnalitica is going to be the hub in the middle there that hears all of this and goes, okay, robot and human, go do this. So what I envision is somebody walks out of your restaurant and gets on Twitter and goes, hey, just left Bob's Rib Shack. Holy hell, their bathroom is a dumpster fire. And that a listener is listening for Bob's Rib Shack, grabs that, realizes that it was figures out where it was, goes into OpsAnalitica, and then OpsAnalitica literally creates a task for a manager. Go check your bathroom because someone just walked out of here tweeting that our bathroom was disgusting. And the whole point of all of that automation and being able to manage the robots and, do all these other cool things with the data. But the whole point of what we're trying to do is this. I want to help people have a process in place, identify issues in real time, and then be able to crowdsource solutions and then change the process and address the issues faster. Because when you can identify things faster and you can solve them faster, then you will irritate less customers, which means your customer sat will go up and your sales and profits will follow, right?
Yep.
Versus you have another chain who's not using a software platform like ours, and they're still doing it on paper, and they're finding out 3 to 6 months later by happenstance that something's not going well. That guy is going to be sitting here, and his competitor who's using software like mine is going to start growing, and they're going to get more advertising dollars, more profits, better locations, better franchisees, better everything. And they're not going to be able to point at one thing that they did because they just ran better. And that's 1,000 little things. You know what I mean? But that's what's going to happen, because if you're getting a bad experience here and you're getting fewer of them over here, you're going to spend more time over here.
Yeah. How you think that this artificial intelligence is going to play a role into your ecosystem? Do you think it's impossible to bring some of those in?
Oh, we're working on it right now. I'm literally putting all the data together right now. We're going to start analyzing it for one of our big clients. So here's the deal, right? Today, like if you're on paper, you're reacting to what's happening, but you're not really finding it out maybe for 3 or 6 months down the road. You add a platform like mine in place. Now you're reacting to what's happening in your business because we can't see anything until you submit it. But you're reacting at least in real time, right? So you're able to look at this and go, okay, I'm in real time. I can see that this guy didn't do that. I can follow up with him real quick. I can get a notification on my phone that tells me this guy's running late. So I'll go contact them and have them go do that thing. With predictive analytics and artificial intelligence and predictive analytics, I don't know how much you know about this technology, but AI is used to go look through all the data and figure out the algorithm.
Grab them all,
and then predictive analytics is used to keep feeding data into the algorithm so that the model gets better and then your prediction gets more accurate. And I mean, if you can get a 1% better prediction when you're trying to predict the future, that's a pretty big deal, right? And so what we're looking to do with predictive analytics is to take this operations data and this financial data that they have, put it together, and then start going, hey, not reacting, you have a problem here. Hey, you're going to have a problem there. Go deal with it now before you piss someone off. You're going to have a food safety violation at that restaurant, 85% chance within the next month. Send someone out there to go sit down and figure out what the hell's going on, Like, it will be the first time in, like, the history of these kinds of businesses where you will be able to look at stuff operationally and go, this is how it impacts sales. And, hey, I can go and figure out that something bad's about to happen and then put my resources better, right? And I'll give you a little side. So, like, these big chains, They've
Yep.
got all these field guys, right? And
Yep.
then, like, if you're in a franchise organization, you might have 80 restaurants. If you're in a chain like Starbucks, you have 9 or 10, right? Corporate owned. Well, they all, like today in the restaurant industry and all these industries, everybody treats every location as if they're equal. And that's because they don't know, they have no way of categorizing them other than on sales, right? And food costs, labor costs, like what they have no way of operationally categorizing these stores. So think of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yep.
20% of your stores are going to be worth 80% of your problems. Flip it. 20% of your stores are going to be worth 80% of your profits. So avoid the 20% of your stores that are crushing it and spend all of the bulk, 80% of your energy on the 20% of your stores that are the biggest amount of problems. And then you can actually grow the business that way. You could, without having to add any more newfangled stuff, by just stopping the bad restaurants from being bad and putting more of your effort into getting them to be good, right?
Yep.
You can lift all the ships in the chain.
Basically,
But
you
they
are
don't have
not.
the ability to do that.
Basically, you are not only talking about operation efficiency, but you are talking actually about prevention system in place.
Yeah.
For the better operation that benefit you in the long haul rather than in the short term. I really love that, like this, analysis and everything else, that you can actually see the future, what is coming, and prevent it. That's a huge thing in the restaurant.
I mean, just imagine like you didn't have the bad experience. You didn't end up on the news because the guy that was like, the computer told you was like 100% going to get somebody sick. You threw some resources at that guy and said, hey, and then you found out, oh, wait, the computer's right. Holy hell, we got to get in here. And then you go and you help them fix it. And then all of a sudden you don't end up on the news. Like that's what they're worth it, You're
absolutely right. But I hope that our listeners, they gain some knowledge about, the restaurant and operation and the process, which is a bulk of their business and the foundation of any restaurant. It doesn't matter, is one owner, is a franchise, is a corporate, whatever it is, the foundation, as you said, is important. But, I know you have a kind of limited time, Tommy, but how, if our listeners, viewers, they got a question, how they can reach you?
So come to OpsAnalitica.com. You'll put our website on the show notes, or hit me up on LinkedIn. So part of my job now is I talk to people who are struggling with something.
Wow.
And any vertical, restaurants, like automotive, dental, movie theaters, grocery stores, doesn't matter. If you're struggling with something, you're struggling pulling something through, you're struggling making decisions, you don't have enough data, consistency issues, you're getting stolen from, whatever it is, I'm here to talk to you. I just want to chat with you because maybe I have an idea, or I can introduce you to the right person, or maybe I'm the right guy to help you fix your problem. And I want to be that for you. So I really do invite every listener. If you're struggling with something, you want to just spitball it, call me up, man. Get me on the chat on OpsAnalitica's website, or get me on LinkedIn, and let's have a quick 30-minute call and talk. I'm dying to understand what you're going through because it helps me make my business and my product better. So it's for me.
I love that. I hope every entrepreneur, they had the same attitude that you have, because I'm all about giving and helping and doing the right things, and amen. And I thank you for that, to helping other entrepreneurs, because you went through it, I went through it. What can we do? At least give them a couple of knowledge that we gain through our failures, through our wins and everything
through
else.
Our failures. Don't do this.
Yeah, that's why there is a pothole there. Don't go there. You're going to break your ankle. That's what I always tell people. But Tommy, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you. And I look forward for our next chat, talk about OpsAnalitica, what you do with all this AI and everything, and analysis and all this stuff. And once again, welcome and thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, too. And you know what? When I get this analysis done, I'll hit you up and we'll
you got to
figure it out. Because we're kind of going in with an open mind. Let the AI figure it out and just see what it comes up with, right?
I love to see it. And the same thing, I'm here if you need anything, my friend. I'm always here. Hit me up. And the same, I will help you up if you have a question. And then we'll get it going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.